Welcome back to Enterprise Unleashed Business Law and Innovation with experienced business strategist and trial attorney Richard P. Corey, nicknamed the Closer. Richard prides himself on striving to maximize his clients' desired outcomes in both transactional and litigation settings. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about how to scale a business without creating legal exposure that could undo years of progress. The Closer has returned, Richard. What's going on, baby?
What's up, Evan? How are you? How you doing?
I'm well. Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Richard, as companies expand, what are the first signs that growth is outpacing their legal structure?
Well, there's a lot of signs that you'd have to look at. So you would look at your employment practices. A lot of times where I see people get caught up a lot is they put everyone as either a salary, they think they're on salary or they're an independent contractor. But if you have them mislabeled for any reason, then you're exposing yourself to big problems. People say, this person was just an independent contractor. Well, not necessarily. Even though you paid them as one, that doesn't mean that they qualify as one under, employment laws.
So when a business starts adding locations, employees, or investors, what legal frameworks must have evolved to support that scale?
Well, one of the things you definitely would want to do is as you grow and develop, you want to make sure that your governing documents, like your operating agreements, your employment contracts, but particularly your operating agreements, aren't outdated. You want to make sure those are modified to reflect the current situation that you're in as far as business, because that handles all your distributions, all how you handle profits and losses, how you handle any acquisitions, any asset purchases, things of that nature. So, there's a lot that you would take into account, but the real big thing is you want to make sure that your employment practices are up to date, because there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years in employment practices. And it's still I'm going to get back to harping on making sure that you have your wage and hourly rates put together properly, because you may end up owing somebody overtime or something like that, and that also comes with not profits. That comes with penalties. Excuse me. And what happens is especially here in South Florida, if you throw a rock, you're going to hit some kind of an attorney that's looking to sue you for something. So especially these employment law attorneys, you will get sued because these statutes that apply come with attorney's fees. So it's not a matter of potentially getting sued, you will get sued. So one of the things that you want to make sure is just your employment practices, your handbooks, and your operating agreements are all up to date.
How can unclear ownership or partnership terms create major problems once a company begins to generate that real revenue?
As money comes in, it creates some ambiguity, because especially if you don't have things structured properly, the more money that comes in, we've talked about this before, where people really fight for two reasons. Either they're not making money and everyone fights, or you are making money and everyone fights, unless you have that strong foundation with your contractual agreements. So, as more money comes in and you start to scale upward, you want to make sure that you have the right structures in place to handle it. Otherwise you're without a strong foundation, you're going to come crashing down. Like the first level of a house, you can't build the second level unless the first one's strong.
Right.
So you need to have that slab, for lack of a better word, needs to be strong and in place. You got to make sure every one of those bricks is laid properly.
What's the most overlooked compliance issue you see when small businesses transition into maybe a mid-size operation?
Wage and hour compliance, by far. That happens all the time. I get a lot of companies, they grow quickly, they hire fast, and then they assume everyone's on salary or contract, but one misclassification that can trigger audits, it can trigger penalties. There's all kinds of issues, and then back pay liability, which you don't want, plus the attorney's fees that are associated with it. It is one of the most expensive mistakes I've seen companies make throughout my entire career.
How can employment contracts and internal policies protect the company as the team grows?
Well, when you have clear and unambiguous contracts where everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing, that creates predictability, and predictability creates sustainability. You have to define what's confidential. You have to make sure your IP, your intellectual property ownership, and your expectations associated with are all laid out in your contracts. You want to have your standards of conduct for all your employees laid out. So, a lot of times people will get lackadaisical. You develop a relationship with your staff and everything, but you have to also make sure you stay and maintain those standards of showing up on time, the standard of the quality of work, and what everyone's expectations are. And as you move forward, otherwise they'll get lost in the they'll get lost in the mix, and you'll end up with chaos.
For founders bringing in investors, Rich, what safeguards should be built into those agreements from the starting point, from the jump off, from day one?
Well, when people bring on investors, especially if you're taking on a VC or private equity fund, they're going to want a board seat. So one of the things that I always take into consideration is control, the
Mhm.
degree of control that you're going to give these people, and what are the dilutions going to be. Like, people, as they, you bring in money, everyone's percentage of equity is going to go down. So what is that dilution? What are the expectations of the investor? Like, when are they, is it a series of investments? Is there going to be calls? Is there going to be capital like the capital contribution requirements need to be spelled out, because when they're vague, I see a lot of issues arise with that, where, I don't have to put this money up. Well, actually, yes, you do, and in fact, you're in breach of contract right now. So you want to make sure that you have, and also you want to have exit protection.
Hmm.
So once you give up a little bit of control, then your vote is no longer as strong as it once was. And if somebody comes in and let's say they want to buy the company, they want to buy assets, you want to make sure that you still have the votes to take the company in the direction that you ultimately wanted. If you lose control of that, then you're no longer captain of your own ship.
What's the best way for a business to manage risk while still keeping that momentum and that creativity alive during that rapid growth?
You would want legal compliance and discipline. So documented processes like contract review. You got to look at your financial controls. What are you spending? What money's going where? And then really just overall governance of the company, everything from employment to your operational schemes, your marketing schemes. Then you also want to mix in innovation. We have so many new tools in today's business world. All these AI tools. We want to look at efficiency and productivity, because when you maximize efficiency and productivity, then you lower transactional risk and cost. So those are two benefits that you want to maximize on to the best you can. That is something that can be used in any industry. That's like a universally applicable language that any business can use, whether you're in retail, wholesale, software. It really doesn't matter. Even as a law practice, I mean, it's universally applicable.
How does strategic outside counsel help a company scale without losing control of its direction or its culture?
There's a lot of times when you're, and this goes for anyone, when you're involved in your business, there's a lot of blind spots that you don't realize you have. So when you have someone else come in and take a look at it from a bird's eye view, they can see the forest through the trees. They'll
Mhm.
be able to see things that you may be missing. So this is something that's important for all businesses. You may not realize, like, a lot of business, including my own. I mean, I'm sitting here, you know, talking about it, but I've had this happen to myself, where you have small little leaks everywhere, where you're spending money on things and it's not enough to really hit you, but the aggregate of it is like, whoa, damn, I just spent all this money on, I don't even know what this subscription's for, or things like that. Like, that happens all the time, and as you grow, you'll find that there's a lot of money that's being put to waste. So efficiency and financial controls are things that I can't put a value towards. That's like the ultimate tool that you need to really focus on when you're trying to scale your business upwards.
So, Richard, for entrepreneurs preparing for their next big phase of expansion, what's one step you would urge them to take before signing anything new?
Update the operating agreement, whatever your shareholder agreement is. If you're an LLC, it's an operating agreement. If you're a corporation, it's a shareholder agreement. Update it to where it accurately reflects the business and operations that you're currently in. Like, I started my practice 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whatever it
Wow.
was. Now I don't have partners, but let's say I did. And where I was 13 years ago is not even close to what, like, if that document is not going to reflect my current business model, my current revenue streams, it's just not going to, it's outdated. So a lot of times people say they'll have their operating agreement, their shareholder agreements in place, but as time went on, they've scaled upward. Now you're dealing with, you add a comma to your revenue streams, hopefully. And so you need to update everything to where it accurately reflects the present reality of your business.
Richard, I appreciate the time, brother.
That's it. We're good. Okay. It sounds good. Let's see you soon.
That was a quick one. That's it for today's episode of Enterprise Unleashed Business Law and Innovation with attorney Richard P. Corey. To connect with Richard, visit rcenterpriselaw.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share this episode with someone else that might need it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.